Good evening, friends, fiends, and night owl supremes. Welcome to A Bit Late. Tonight we have another double feature. We're reading the spooky stories, The Coffin-Lid and The Two Corpses. And in theme, I have some blood red tea. It's actually very berry tea, but the stories are kind of about vampires, so I thought it would be appropriate and really sweet. It's delicious. I kind of added roses to it. I kind of add things to tea a lot of times to make it a little bit extra. But I hope you're having a wonderful evening so far, and if it's not the best, maybe it'll be better after these two scary stories. You'll be like, wow, at least I didn't have to deal with that stuff in real life. Yay. But gather around you your blankets, pillows, summon your animal familiars, light your candles and fairy lights, and get your own tea or coffee. Everything you need to get settled and ready for tonight's stories. All right, let's open the lid of the first story, The Coffin-Lid. A peasant was driving along one night with a load of pots. I shouldn't laugh, but brain stop. His horse grew tired, and all of a sudden it came to a standstill alongside a graveyard. Do-do-do. The peasant unharnessed his horse and set it free to graze. On the graveyard grass? What? That's interesting. Meanwhile, he laid himself down on one of the graves. I wouldn't do that. But somehow he didn't go to sleep. I can't imagine why. He remained lying there some time. Suddenly, the grave began to open beneath him. He felt the movement and sprang to his feet. Good. The grave opened, and out of it came a corpse, wrapped in a white shroud and holding a coffin lid. Came out and ran to the church, laid the coffin lid at the door, and then set off for the village. Oh no. The peasant was a daring fellow. Better him than me. He picked up the coffin lid and remained standing beside his cart, waiting to see what would happen. After a short delay, the dead man came back, just a short delay, and was going to snatch up his coffin lid, but it was not to be seen. Then the courts began to track it out, traced it up to the peasant and said, "Give me my lid. If you don't, I'll tear you to bits." "And my hatchet, how about that?" answered the peasant. "Why, it's I who'll be chopping you into small pieces." Wow, he is brave and sassy. "Do give it back to me, good man," begs the corpse. "I'll give it to you when you tell me where you've been and what you've done." And I don't know why, but the peasant is giving me Samwise Gamgee vibes. Just brave and like, no, this is how it's going to be. "Well, I've been in the village, and there I've killed a couple of youngsters." "Well then, now tell me how they can be brought back to life." The corpse reluctantly made answer. "Cut off the left skirt of my shroud and take it with you. When you come into the house where the youngsters were killed, pour some live coals into a pot and put a piece of the shroud in with them and lock the door. The lads will be revived by the smoke immediately." Interesting. The peasant cut off the left skirt of the shroud and gave up the coffin lid. Fair is square after all. The corpse went to its grave, the grave opened. But just as the dead man was descending into it, all of a sudden the cocks began to crow, and he hadn't had time to get properly covered over. That's interesting. So he has to push the dirt himself once he's in the coffin? Or is that magic of the earth eating him up and covering him up for bed every night? I don't know. Questions. Many questions. Just one of the many about reading the story so far. But as it is, one end of the coffin lid remained sticking out of the ground. The peasant saw all this and made note of it. The day began to dawn. He harnessed his horse and drove into the village. In one of the houses he heard cries and wailing. In he went. There lay the two dead lads. "Don't cry," says he. "I can bring them to life." "Do bring them to life, kinsman," say the relatives. "We'll give you half of all we possess." The peasant did everything as the corpse had instructed him, and the lads came back to life. Yay, surprise, hooray! The relatives were delighted, but they immediately seized the peasant and bound him with cords, saying, No, trickster, we'll hand you over to the authorities. Since you knew how to bring them back to life, maybe it was you who killed them." Oh my God, just be grateful. I mean, it's good to be suspicious, maybe. But, I mean, come on, he saved them and you probably just didn't want to have to pay him half of everything. But, brain, stop. Read the story. Cool. What are you thinking about, true believers? Have the fear of heaven before your eyes, cried the peasant. Then he told them everything that had happened to him during the night. Well, they spread the news through the village. The whole population assembled and swarmed into the graveyard. They found out the grave from which the dead man had come out. They tore it open, and they drove an aspen stake right into the heart of the corpse, so that it might no more rise up and slay. No more rising and slaying for you, Master Corpse. But they rewarded the peasant richly and sent him away home with great honor. Hooray! And the story continues while the author lets us know that it is not only during sleep that the vampire is to be dreaded. At the crossroads or in the neighborhood of cemeteries, an animated corpse of this description often lurks, watching for some unwary wayfarer whom it may be able to slay and eat. Past such dangerous spots as these, the belated villager will speed with timorous steps, remembering, perhaps, some such uncanny tale as that which comes next. Mwahaha. And that tale which comes next is, of course, the two corpses. A soldier had obtained leave to go home on furlough, to pray to the holy images and to bow down before his parents. As he was going his way, at a time when the sun had long set and it was dark all around, oh no, it chanced that he had to pass by a graveyard. Just then he heard that someone was running after him and crying, "Stop! You can't escape." He looked back and there was a corpse running and gnashing its teeth. The soldier sprang on one side with all his might to get away from it, caught sight of a little chapel and bolted straight into it. Yes, buddy. There wasn't a soul in the chapel, but stretched out on a table there lay another corpse with tapers burning in front of it. Oh, it's a new one. Hey, new buddy. The soldier hid himself in a corner and remained there, hardly knowing whether he was alive or dead, but waiting to see what would happen. Presently up ran the first corpse, the one that had chased him, and dashed into the chapel. Wait, they can come into the chapel? What? Did not expect that. I know the one's in there, but it started in there. I thought like sanctified ground or something, but if they were... Anyway, I was thinking if they were buried in the church graveyard, then they still could walk there. So much going on. Anyway, the first one is in the chapel. Thereupon, the one that was laying on the table jumped up and cried out to it, "What hast thou come here for?" "I've chased a soldier in here, so I'm going to eat him." "Come now, brother, he's run into my house. I shall eat him myself." "No, I shall." "No, I shall." So I picture the one on the table popping up like in Skyrim when you're in the catacombs. They just sort of wake up, sit up slowly, and look at you if you're not stealthy enough. But why are you playing Skyrim without being a sneaky, stealthing ranger? I don't know. It's the only way I play. Anyway, the two corpses are fighting over who gets to eat the soldier. And they set to work fighting. The dust flew like anything. They'd have gone on fighting ever so much longer, only the cocks began to crow. Then both the corpses fell lifeless to the ground, and the soldier went on his way homeward in peace, saying, "Glory be, I am saved from the wizards." I thought they were corpses. Anyway, the end of two tales from, well, not beyond the grave, but in the graveyard, because the corpses are still in this lifetime, I think. Well, the lifetime of the living, so it's not really beyond the veil or beyond the grave, is it? Just more thoughts to think about and overthink about while you're not thinking about other things. Or maybe this adds too much to the thinking plate. Anyway, I'm sorry. I hope you've enjoyed these tales. And there are so many other spooky ones too if you need more spooky in your life, or if you just need some other stories. Have a fairy tale playlist that's a little easier. And then everything all in one place, like all the Alice in Wonderlands, all the Bly Manors, if you're in the spooky market still, stuff like that. Anyway, It's been wonderful chatting with you, but now off to sleep and dream what you will, or stay a while and enjoy another tale. Whichever you choose, I'll speak to you again, and until then, stay spooky, my friends. Good night.